If you want more sales on eBay, just promote your items at a higher rate and give eBay more money and you will have more sales. This is exactly how promoted ads work, and I'm going to break down the strategies I use to have more sales while keeping my profit margins. I'm also going to discuss the one piece of advice I wish I knew when I was starting to sell on the eBay platform. eBay made $10.1 billion in revenue in 2023. That's a 4% increase from 2022. Did eBay convince you to increase your promoted ads by 4% in the last year? If eBay can just convince you and me and all the other sellers on the platform to increase our promoted ad rates by another 4% this year, they're going to turn even more revenue. This seems like a simple idea, but if eBay can convince you to increase your promoted ad rate to 100%, you're going to work for free for eBay and they're going to make all the money on the products you sell. So where do we draw the line? Let's get into it. So far this year, I have given eBay $10,000 in fees. $2,300 of that being promoted fees or fees that I choose to pay to eBay. I didn't have to pay those fees, so that's money that I gave to eBay willingly. So what are promoted listings? Well, simply it's a way for eBay to make more money by charging you a fee to put your listing higher on the search results. So your listing will show up at the top or near the top depending on how much you promote your listing. Also, your listing might show up in other places when people are searching for other products or they're looking at another item. Your promoted listing might show up there. It all depends on where eBay thinks that they should put your promoted listing and how much money you gave them to put it there. So if me and you are selling the same exact item for the same exact price, same shipping, everything is identical, and I promote mine at 10% and you promote yours at, say, 11%, yours should rank a little higher than mine. So your promoted listing will show up here and mine might be right below it. But if there's someone that decided to promote it at 20%, they're going to be above all of us. And this matters because search matters. If your items aren't showing up on that first page, it's really hard to sell your items. If your item is showing up at the bottom of the first page, it's harder than if your item is at the top of the first page. So placement on that search result matters, and eBay knows that, we know that, and that's why we pay eBay for those search results. This is the same way Google works. When you go and search something on Google, you'll see, the item that you might be searching for, but right at the top, you'll also see promoted ads that someone paid to have that placement there. So if you search for Netflix, Hulu might have an ad right at the top above it, and eBay works in the same way. Just because you chose to put a promoted ad fee on your listing doesn't mean that you're going to necessarily pay that when your item sells. It all depends. So in order for you to pay that promoted ad fee, the buyer has to click on the promoted ad listing. So I promote all of my items in my store. Every item that I have is promoted, but I still make a lot of sales that are not promoted sales. And that's due to people that follow my store and they're looking for the items, or it's from people finding the items not using the ads. So the buyer has to click the ad in order for you to have to pay the ad fee. So it's kind of a win-win. So if the buyer finds the item without using the ad, you don't pay for it and it doesn't matter. But if they're not going to be able to find it because maybe you bought a bad sell-through rate item, or your title's not correct, or the pricing's not correct, then eBay may push your item and help find you a buyer, and because they help sell your item, they want a little commission on that. I'm excited to see this channel grow, and I appreciate all the support that you guys have given me in the last couple videos here. If you haven't already, please hit that like and subscribe button. Drop a comment down below. I try to answer all the comments that I can, so if you have any questions, just drop them down below and I'll try to get to it. If you want an additional way to help support the channel, please use my Amazon affiliate links. I'm going to leave the link in the description down below. And the way those work is if you click on any of those links and you buy anything on Amazon within 24 hours of clicking one of my links, I'm going to get a small percentage of that. And that money really helps me keep the channel going. So I appreciate everyone that's been using those Amazon links. And if you are planning to purchase anything from Amazon in the future or currently, use your favorite YouTubers' links. It's a great way of supporting a small YouTube channel financially without you actually having to spend any money. It doesn't cost you anything extra, and Amazon doesn't add any fees onto you. We just get a small percentage. So go ahead and use those links down below. If you're curious on how many promoted sales you're making versus how many organic sales you're making, you can go to your sales dashboard on your eBay seller hub and you can find that information. So for me, I have 66.6% promoted sales, or $41,000 were sold using eBay promoted ads, and I promote my whole store. So even though I promote my whole store, only 66% of that is being sold using promoted ads. The other 33.4%, or $20,000, is organic sales, and that's people finding the item without having to click on the ad. So you can kind of see that, and it's a good idea to track that and see if you're having a lot of promoted ads versus a lot of organic sales. And if you are, it could mean that you're just giving eBay a lot of extra money, or you're not picking up the correct items. And you'd have to look at your store and look at your other information in order to figure out which one of those cases it is. But this is a good thing, and I track it, every month or so, and I look at it and I see, did I sell more promoted ads or did I sell more organic ads? So I know what you might be thinking. I promote all my listings. How does that work? Well, I'm not going to share with you what my promoted ad rate is because it's not going to help you. What I promote my items at isn't what you should promote your items at. And that kind of depends based on what your profit margins are, what your business allows for, and what your sell-through rate of your items are, and how fast you want to turn your inventory. So you kind of have to find that, and it's a personal thing. But I will tell you that I have two different ad rates. So I have one ad rate that I use for all my items that have a sell-through rate of up to 100%. So if the item sells with a sell-through rate up to 100%, it's promoted at, let's just say 10%, as in the example. So all those items are promoted at 10%. And then I have a separate promoted ad rate for items over 100% sell-through rate. So those items that are in high demand, I still promote them. You don't necessarily have to, it depends on your business model. But for me, I promote all of mine. And the ones that are above 100%, I promote at half of my normal rate. So if my normal rate in this example was 10%, my over 100% sell-through rate items are promoted at 5%. And I use these two as a way of speeding up my process. I don't have to sit there and think. I don't have to look at eBay's recommended rate and say, oh, I should be promoting it at this because they said that. Or I try to take all the math and questions out of it and create the fastest listing that I can. So I just have two rates that I use and I just stick to those. This also helps when I'm buying items because I know exactly how much I'm going to promote that item at, so I can calculate my margins while I'm in the store. If you're not sure what you're going to promote your item at, then when you're in the store and you're deciding, is this within my profit margin or not, you're not really going to have a good idea. So I like to have just one or two, or maybe you want to have three or four, but just have a few rules and just stick to those versus whatever you feel like today is what I'm going to promote my ad at. Another cool thing I do to try to avoid paying ad fees is when I get offers from buyers. Now, this doesn't work when you're sending out offers, but if I receive an offer from a buyer, eBay is going to show me whether that came from a promoted ad or not. It's also going to show me the buyer's location. I use those two factors to help me determine whether I'm going to accept someone's offer or not. So if you send me an offer and your offer is coming with a promoted ad and I'm going to have to ship this item across the country, so I'm going to have to pay more for shipping, I'm less likely to accept that offer. Now, if someone that lives in a nearby state and they send me the same offer, but they live nearby and they didn't click a promoted ad, I might accept that offer. Even though it's the same amount, I know I'm going to make more because I'm not having to ship it across the country and I'm also not having to pay that ad fee. So when I set my minimums on my offers, I calculate that in my mind. So I turn down a lot of offers because the buyer wants 20% off the item, it's coming from a promoted ad, and I'm having to ship it across the country. I'm like, I'm not going to make any money. But if that person was I'm in Utah, so if that person was in California, which is a cheap state for me to ship to, I might be more willing to accept that offer, especially if it doesn't have that promoted ad. So when you go to accept offers, if it's showing a promoted ad down below, just think about it and think how that's going to affect your profit margins. eBay doesn't do a great job of explaining how ad rates work. You would think that if you promote an item at 10% and you sold the item for $10, that you'd be paying $1 in ad fees. But that's not quite how that works. So if you sell an item for $10, but there's $5 of shipping on it, and the buyer's in a state that has sales tax, and that sales tax comes out to, let's say, another $2, that buyer paid $17 all in. You're paying that ad fee on that full amount. You're not just paying it on the sale price, you're paying it on the full amount that that buyer paid. So a buyer that lives in a state with sales tax and a buyer that has, or an item that has higher shipping, is going to have a higher ad fee. So that's why I try to stay away from those heavier or larger items to ship, because when I put an ad fee on it, I'm actually paying ad fees on top of the shipping. So you have to calculate all that. So in this example, you know, if the item sold for $10 and we paid, or the buyer paid $5 for shipping and $2 for the taxes, that's $17. So you're actually paying $1.70 if you promote it at 10%, versus $1 is what you might think. I'm not going to break this down too much further, but I do have this video here that you should check out if you're unsure how to calculate how much eBay's charging you. I do a great job in breaking down exactly how the ad fees work and exactly how the selling costs work, and how you can calculate those before you even purchase the item in the store and know your exact profit margins. Don't listen to eBay. eBay's a salesman, and they say don't let salesmen in your house, don't let salesmen in your business. eBay at the bottom, when you go to add that promoted ad fee, it's going to say, we recommend that you promote your ad at whatever. And guess what? They're always going to put it up higher and higher and higher, because you let that salesman into your business, and once he's in, he is selling you. So I like to create those rules, like I said earlier, know exactly how much money I'm going to be giving eBay on each transaction, and I stick to those. I do my best to not even look at those, because that's a salesman down there, and you don't want to deal with a salesman. That salesman at the bottom, his whole job is to create more revenue for eBay. And eBay is making more money by charging sellers more fees, and we're willingly accepting these fees. This wasn't a fee increase. eBay didn't come out and say, instead of the 12 point whatever percent that they charge us on fees, they're saying, hey, would you like to pay a little extra to sell that item? And we're willingly giving that money over. This is eventually going to hit a breaking point, but right now eBay's doing great business, because they're not having to spend any money to bring more buyers to the platform. They're not having to bring more sellers in. They're not having to facilitate more sales. They're just making more money off of each sale, and we're allowing it to happen. So you have to set those things in stone, because eBay's eventually just going to be like, we recommend that you promote your item at 100%. Well, of course you do. You want me to work for free for you, and you want me to sell items that I paid money for free and give them to the customer, and it's actually going to cost me money. So you have to understand this. I'm not blaming eBay. This is a great business strategy for them. They have a responsibility to make money for their shareholders, and they're doing a great job in doing that. But we as sellers can't just keep giving them more and more money to sell our items. We have to get something else in return. And that means eventually this is going to hit a breaking point of where we're not going to be willing to promote our items at 100%. So eBay's now going to say, well, how are we going to increase revenue next year? Because we need to increase revenue each year. That's how the stock market works. So they're going to then have to start doing ads and bringing in more buyers to the platform, getting more creative with the platform, and facilitating more sales on the platform, versus keeping the same amount of sales, same amount of buyers, and same amount of sellers, and just charging more for the same service. So I know what you're thinking. You're saying, that's fine, but I'm just not going to promote my items. Well, you can try, and I recommend that you do try. If you're just starting out, don't go ahead and promote your items at what eBay recommends. Don't just jump in and say, I'm going to promote everything at 20% and sell it fast. You got to kind of slowly work your way into eBay and learn the platform. The best way for you to avoid paying fees, or these additional ad fees, is for you to pick up high sell-through rate items and list them for under market prices. If you do that, you might not have to use promoted ads. If you find iPhones, like the iPhone 15 or 14, and they're all in good condition, and you pick them up for $1 at the thrift store, or you have a source and you can pick them up for $1 and you can sell them for $10 on eBay, and you're making $9 per transaction, I understand. You don't need an ad fee, because everyone's going to buy that item. But if you're picking up coffee mugs and plush, and you're thinking you're going to be able to sell that on the platform without using ad fees, it's going to be really difficult unless that coffee mug and plush is some rare item that everyone's searching for. It's going to be really hard for you to make sales without using promoted ads. So the items that you list and the price that you list matters and can help you avoid the promoted ad fees. Is it better to promote the listing, or is it better to offer that discount to the customer? So if you were going to promote your listing at 10%, is it better to use promoted ads at 10%, or is it better to discount your item at 10%? And I don't know the true answer to this, but this is how I look at it. I look at it as, if you're going to discount that item, you're going to only get the customers that are price sensitive. So you're only going to get the customer that goes over to the left-hand navigation and sorts by highest to lowest and purchases the item that way. Not every buyer is doing that. A lot of people are time-sensitive buyers versus price-sensitive. So they're hopping on the eBay platform and they're typing in and they're searching for whatever they're looking for, that baseball cap. And the first one that pops up that looks like what they want, they're buying it. They're not going to spend all day looking for the best price. So you're missing out on those buyers. The other thing you're not accounting for is, even though that buyer might have searched highest to lowest price, if you promoted your listing, eBay might throw your listing right in there. They don't care. They don't care that the buyer searched highest to lowest. They'll still throw your price point right in there because you paid for that ad placement. So even though that buyer that was price sensitive was looking for the best price, he might still see yours and still have that opportunity to buy it. The other thing you have to think about is, do you want to attract those buyers? I personally don't. So I price my items at fair market price and I accept offers below fair market price. But I'm not going out selling items for nothing, because those are not the buyers I want. Those buyers, in my experience, are the buyers that I'm trying to avoid. They're the bad buyers. They're the buyers that are going to complain about everything. They're the buyers that are going to leave you a bad review. They're the buyers that are going to return the item. It might be a $3 item and you paid for the shipping and they're just not quite happy enough with it, so they're going to ask you to return the item. I try to avoid those buyers, and one way I avoid them is by not being price sensitive. So you have to weigh those options with your business strategy. When a customer is looking for an item and that item is super cheap, so like everyone has theirs at $100 and you put yours at $90 because you're not promoting yours, but the customer doesn't know whose is promoted and whose isn't. They're not paying that well of attention to it when they're on the platform. So they just see yours at 90. They might not even click on yours at 90 because they just assume there's something wrong with it. This is the one piece of advice I wish I knew when I was starting selling on eBay, and it's start slow and don't just jump into promoted listings. When I started, I went on and I listed my items, and eBay's like, promote your item at 11%. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. eBay wants me to promote it at 11%, so it'll sell. So I promoted it at 11%. And then next week I got an item that was maybe similar, and I go on and I go to list it, and eBay says, promote your item at 11.2%. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. The market changed a little bit. They want me to promote it at a little bit more, so I promoted it at 11.2. Well, as you can imagine, this kept growing, and eventually I was working my way up and I'm not making any profit. And I'm like, why am I not making any money? I'm doing all this work. I'm going out finding these items. I'm creating these listings. I'm shipping them out to the customer, and eBay's making all the money. So this is the one piece of advice I wish I knew. Start as low as you can. 2% is the minimum of what you can promote your listings at. If you're going to use promoted listings, start down at 2%, wait 90 days, see what your sales are like. If you need more sales because you're running out of space or you want to turn your inventory quicker, that's your business strategy, then slowly build it up until you hit the point where you're happy. You have to wait 90-day cycles, because eBay, like if you just say 2% today and, oh, that didn't work, I'm going to do 3% tomorrow, that's not going to work. You have to give it some time. I like the 90-day cycles. eBay runs on 90-day cycles. So start at that 2% and then work your way up. It's a lot easier, because when I was up at 11, 12, 13%, and I was like, oh, I need to cut this in half or a quarter, and I started cutting back, your sales are just going to tank, and mine did. And that's not something you want to battle. I would have much rather have worked my way up to where I was happy than trying to come back down, because there's two things working against you. One, you're used to this higher sales volume because you've been paying for it. And the other part of it is eBay doesn't want you to decrease your promoted ad fees. So when you're starting to decrease them, I think there's something on the back end where they're slowing down your sales even more. Where if you start at 2% and now all of a sudden you went to 2.5, they're going to show you an increase in sales because they're happy that you gave them an extra 0.5%. Remember, when it comes to promoted ads, start slow, start low, and work your way up until you hit that point where you're happy with your sales versus profit margins. If you liked this video, YouTube thinks that you're going to enjoy this one, so go ahead and click it.